making matters worse, the British government reportedly believes China may have massively underreported the scale of the coronavirus epidemic there, possibly by a factor of 40. In America, President Trump is calling COVID-19 the China or Wuhan virus.
Your own aide, Secretary Azar, says he does not use this term. He says ethnicity does not cause the virus. Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate.
In such desperate times, the world needs its two greatest powers working together. But the blame game around COVID-19 may be just starting, and anger over China's role is only growing. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News.
On by the Chinese author Dian Wei Liang. Very good to talk to you, Dan. Now tell me, there's been some dark mutterings, particularly over the weekend here in the UK, about a so-called reckoning with China as a result of coronavirus. Do you think it could sour relations between China and the West?
I think it could. However, I think we have to wait to see where the pandemic will go. It very much depends on, the death toll and the impact economically on the world economy before we have time and we're at the end of the road, can go back and look at what happened and try to learn lessons from it. But in all that, there is a potential that the epidemic will be traced back to perhaps mismanagement in China during the early times, and perhaps misreporting or underreporting of the infections and death numbers, etc. However, at the moment, it's very much a huge crisis for pretty much every country in the world. It's in the process of trying to get it under control. Of course, I understand there are definitely angers in every corner, trying to find out what happened, how was this disease being allowed to infect so many people and causing so many deaths in the world.
But do you think China's trying to make amends? You refer to the early response, the cover-up, the misinformation, the denial. Do you think now it's trying to make amends for that? We see Chinese medical teams and medical equipment being sent to many countries all around the world. And indeed, the science is being shared as well, the genetic coding and other research into potential vaccines. Is that almost, in a way, an admission of earlier guilt?
I don't believe it was. I believe the Chinese, as WHO had pointed out, very early on shared the genome code with the rest of the world. And what China did realize was that at the very early stage in Wuhan and Hubei province, the cover-up caused massive infections and death within China. And they realized that was a mistake. And one can go back and to look at why that had happened. And one can point out that perhaps that is inherited in the system in the way that very much in the government's desire to have everything under control, to do everything at any cost to maintain order. And that had caused not only suffering for the rest of the world, but also suffering for the Chinese people. And that was eradicated in China. At the moment, of course, China trying to help the rest of the world to deal with this crisis. I don't believe it's a mission of guilt. However, if we go back to look at how it manifested from a very small number of infections within Wuhan to this absolute global pandemic, and there are definitely lessons to be learned, both from the public health point of view, but also from political point of view.
Well, great to get your thoughts. Thank you very much, Dian Wei.
Thank you.
As you're probably aware by now, every night here on Sky News, we're telling the stories of the